Hello wonderful people, it's been a while since I uploaded the last video in this series, but we are back with fresh new builds, which means a lot of fun is ahead of us. So we already know that Dark Souls 3 has a wide range of weapons and equipments, most of which can be used by having a quality build or by simply having high strength and dexterity. Sadly though, a lot is to be desired here. There's only a small selection of unique builds to choose from. That's why you see a lot of similar builds in PvP. In this video, we try to take some of the weaker mechanics in the game and try to amplify them by making a build around it. This usually means having certain items equipped and specific stat allocation. Therefore, the builds here are not super powerful by any measure, but the fun in trying out different builds and trying new stuff outweighs anything else, especially after you get bored from playing with optimized builds. So, let's look at the builds, shall we? Number 1 build, Status Effect Master. This build is focused on inflicting all status effects except Toxin. It's a hollow build with a bit of attunements and intelligence. The luck stat increases your bleed and poison buildup. It's a slight increase though, but it will also increase our hollow infused weapons damage rating. Let's start with the poison part of this build. There's a couple of good poison weapons. The ones that are most effective possess inherent poison damage. They also must be buffable, so we can further buff it with poison resin. This way, the poison buildup is insane, especially with the high luck stat. The Hollow Guru Dagger, the Hollow Guru Curved Sword, and the Hollow Guru Spear are your best options here. My favorite is definitely the dagger. It hits so fast and quick, you will poison people in seconds. It also has the quick step weapon art, which is awesome. You can dodge in and out of fights in an instance, just make sure to have the focus points while using it. The Hollow Banded Dagger has inherent bleed. In addition, you can further buff it with Karthus Rouge, which results in top-notch bleed buildup. It has the same weapon art as the Guru Dagger, therefore you maintain your quick step even by switching weapons. The last touch for this build is the Snap Freeze spell, although optional. Use this to quickly frostbite your opponents. The build-up is very fast. Once build-up is complete, your opponent gets damaged and it lowers their stamina regeneration and armor resistance. The plan is to first poison your opponent with the poison buffed Hollow Dagger. It triggers very quickly. You just need one opening and you're good. As soon as they poison, switch to the Banded Dagger, apply Karthus Rouge if possible, and try your best to bleed your opponent while they are panicking from poison. Poison is very weak, but it will affect your opponent psychologically. They will really panic once you bleed them. At this point, they should have little amount of HP left, and poison should finish them off. Use Snap Freeze during this process at any time. It adds another layer of things for them to worry about. This build was way more effective than I originally thought, and most importantly, it's a ton of fun. Just make sure to change your poison weapon in order to counter your opponent's weapons. The Guru Spear is good for range, for example, and has the same poison buildup, but hits much slower. Killing somebody with poison is a sight to behold. Number 2 build, Hazels Trick. This build revolves around 3 items and 1 true combo. Hazel Pick as your weapon, Sage Ring +2 for faster casting, and a Soul Greatsword as a sorcery spell. The stats are distributed between strength and intelligence and attunements. The dominant factor here is the intelligence stat, and the rest can be distributed as you please. You can be a strength/intelligence build like a 40 strength and maybe 50 or 60 intelligence, or just have the minimum requirements for wielding the Hazel Pick and go all out on intelligence and attunements, or maybe increase your passive stats. It's really up to you as long as you have the items I mentioned. Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring and the Young Dragon Ring are very useful. Same goes for the Leo Ring, as the Hazel Pick inflicts thrust damage in all of its attacks. You will see 2 types of footage in this section. One is on the PlayStation 4 and the other is on the PC, but most of it is on the PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 4 footage was captured way before the DLC, Ashes of Ariandel dropped. Back then, the Hazel Pick did not have any hyper armor on its attacks. After the patch and the release of the DLC, they buffed the Hazel Pick by giving it hyper armor, so you can poise through attacks now, which makes this weapon way better than before. Nevertheless, it was the first build I did for this video at the time, but I wasn't sure if the trick worked after they adjusted poise, but thankfully it still works, so the footage from the PlayStation 4 is still relevant. The trick is that with the Sage Ring or High Dexterity, you can get one attack in and then cast the Soul Greatsword spell guaranteed in PvP, which is insane. The damage you can do with this is very high with a proper setup. You can further increase the damage of the Soul Greatsword by increasing your intelligence stat, or rings, or maybe the Crown of Dusk. Furthermore, you can buff the Hazel Pick by using its weapon art. This results in dealing more damage with your attacks and your spells, which includes the Soul Greatsword. Other than having this insane true combo, you can equip other sorceries you want to further enhance your combat capability. There are really many ways you can play with this build while still maintaining the true combo. I really love this build as it's a lot of fun and super powerful. Most people don't even know about this true combo until they get a taste of it themselves. Number 3 build, the Raging Millwood. This has to be one of the funniest builds to play with. I was laughing more than actually playing while trying out this build. The main thing in this build is your weapon, the Millwood axe, found in the Ashes of Ariandel DLC. This build revolves around its weapon art. It makes your character run quickly towards your opponent, and if you successfully aim it right on your opponent, you will stun them and get a free hit too. There is one very important thing about this weapon art. You don't consume any stamina while doing it, meaning you can move around the map stamina free. This is a huge deal. This means you can constantly do it time after time. Just remember, the stun won't work without focus points, but this is fairly common knowledge. To make this move even more ridiculous, use Iron Flesh with it, and this way you can stun them like always, but if they wanted to play smart and try to counter you, well, now they can't. They just can't. Understandably, most people keep running away until Iron Flesh deactivates. And this time you can keep rushing them like crazy, but to play it safe, always use Iron Flesh mid to end fight. This will surprise them big time. The axe is strength oriented, so this is a strength build with just a bit of attunements for one slot, and so you can also use Iron Flesh twice with a blue bar. Thankfully, the warrior class can use Iron Flesh without upgrading any faith or intelligence, so making this build is pretty straightforward and pretty easy. Just make sure to get ready for some hate mail. This build, although super funny from our side, it is super frustrating on the receiving end. The fourth and final build, the Moaning Turtle. What if I told you that there is a build that counters most meta builds in the PvP scene? A build that you just play with without ever thinking much, since meta builds become way weaker and most tricks that hotshots try will fall flat. So if you had a long day, just use this build and play casually while still maintaining a huge win ratio. So in a way, it's a meta build. I mean, it competes with anything. I didn't want to share this cancer since, it's cancer, but hey, there are many cancer builds already, so why not add a new one? This is a standard strength build with the heavy broadsword as your weapon. The broadsword is kinda underrated since it has less range than most long swords, but it works perfectly with a strength build. It has very solid damage, and its heavy attacks works perfectly with the board and sword playstyle. The main thing about this build is the great shields, and the main one is the Moaning Shield, one of the best great shields in the series in terms of PvP. Just take a look yourself. You can block like a boss. Even the most nasty of weapons can't penetrate this beast of a shield. A lot of people actually think I'm cheating when using this build because they try everything to guard break me, but to no avail. There are some counters. The most you will see is bleed weapons, mostly the Karthus curved sword buffed with the Karthus Rouge stacked with a Night Slayer ring. This is a very dangerous setup. That's why we have the Blood Red Musculump equipped to heal bleed plus Eastern set, since it has one of the highest bleed resistances in the game. On top of all that, we have the Blood Bite ring. When you see a bleed setup, change the ring and armor quickly and use Musculumps if they are about to bleed you. Just like that, we got rid of one of the most annoying counter builds. It's really funny when you see someone trying to bleed you and guard break you at the same time, but keep failing at it. Time after time, until they realize you're godlike with this build. Sometimes they just flat out surrender and accept defeat when everything they tried has failed. Other extra stuff you should have are the Lothric Knight Great Shield infused with Simple, a Black Iron Great Shield infused with Fire, a Cathedral Knight Great Shield infused with Deep, and the Lothric Shield infused with Lightning. This way you can counter every mage in the game. When you see a Pyromancer, unequip the Moaning Shield and replace it with both the Fire Black Knight Great Shield and Cathedral Knight Great Shield. This way you can block the fire attacks with the Black Knight Great Shield and block the dark damage such as Black Flame and Black Serpent with the Cathedral Knight Great Shield. The rest of the build is up to you. Thankfully, there are some other solid counters against turtles. Lucern's weapon art goes right through shields, and it's one of the best turtle counters in the game. Many weapons have weapon arts that go through shields, like Dark Drift for example, but I prefer other counters. Having a deep or fire weapon infused can prove very useful against the Moaning Shield. Even better is the Corvian Great Knife stacked with Night Slayer ring. Its weapon art goes through shields, and its range coupled with how many attacks you can do in a row makes it one of the better counters against shields. These are all the builds in this video. I am positive that there will be more videos for this series in the near future, as I have some builds already planned for the next episode, so make sure to subscribe so you won't miss it. Furthermore, if you are familiar with this channel, you would know that I was doing top 10 lists for the community, but there was an issue with YouTube's messaging system and I lost all the footage for the last video. My next list will be top 10 gang spanks. Send me your best clips and it might make it in the video. Check down below in the description for further details on how to send your clips. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching everyone. See you in my next video. Farewell.